Okay, so there is, what we're going to work from today is an example called UI example that's on Sakai. So you can get that downloaded. It's brief. There isn't a ton of stuff in this unit as there kind of was in prior weeks to get through this week. It is a little bit, kind of boring and not totally straightforward either. So I think the best way to handle that would be that I'll talk through the brief example today. Then I'll call it a day and give you a chance to mess with it a bit to kind of try to get some comfort. Maybe read some of the Unity man pages too if you need to get some additional breadth. And then we'll leave for tomorrow a kind of a dive in, and we'll try to create some stuff from scratch to make sure that we all are on the same page, that it actually is possible to do it from scratch. Thursday, I'm reserving for feedback if I need to discuss with you individually about your project ideas, anything we can't accomplish in that regard. Thursday, we'll leave for Friday. Likewise, any extra time on Thursday, if people want to get checked out early, we should have time for that. Okay, sound good? Sound like a week? Okay, and I'll be gone for a couple weeks, and by the time I come back, you'll be wrapping up your projects. So, okay. So let me fire up my copy of the UI example. And you can perfectly well, if you don't have it up and running right away, you won't be hurt by it. But for the second part of the hour, I just want you to be able to play with it. Okay, so what kind of stuff am I talking about here? So there's a bunch of stuff to UI. I'm not even talking about some of the more basic stuff, like putting up a score. But I assume you're going to want to put up a score because that's one of the things I'm asking for a project. So what does that involve? Just being able in code to get a hold of a text field and put stuff there. Okay, I think that's pretty easy. But this kind of goes beyond that. This is the infrastructure that you would need to basically conceal your application behind a starter screen, which is often needed for the kinds of things you do if you're doing an experimental project with Unity. You have experimental subjects coming in. You don't want them looking and spending varying amounts of time soaking in the environment that they're going to be in. You want that to be strictly controlled. So you want to have what's called in gaming parlance a splash screen up there saying, just whatever, maybe with instructions or maybe just the name of your project or whatever, and the user can stare at that until such a time as you're going to start the clock and actually have them work on the task. Okay, likewise, at the end, you often want to have a screen come up to kind of basically lock things down and provide their score and any feedback that you want to give to your users. Okay, so let's just go. This is a really boring application, but let's just start by running it. So here we go. It is now running. Okay, so you would notice when you bring this up, if you try to mess with this is a normal first-person application, as many of yours will be. If you try to move, it's not going to work. Nothing happens until you click on this start button. Okay, and the first thing that happens is you're still locked out from moving. This is the plane, and I now have a motion model here, but you're still locked out until you read some information, because what I'm trying to mock up here is a tutorial. I am asking you to give me a tutorial for your end projects, and again, just because it is very typical if you're doing a training-oriented application, or you're even doing you're really a system builder, but you need to ship it out to other people that aren't local here to get their feedback. You probably want a nice tutorial. That's the state of the art. It is sad that in DoD it's still really not the state of the art, and we rely on classroom instruction. But you don't always have the luxury of classroom instruction for anything below a certain threshold of importance. But above the threshold where you guys will have to worry about it, unfortunately. Okay, so here, this is tutorial, right? I'm assuming I have a user, never played a first-person shooter, doesn't know anything about it, and saying move forward now by pressing the W key. Okay, it doesn't work right now. You have to acknowledge first, and then you heard the little thump as my motion model starts up, and now I'm live. Okay, if I press the wrong keys, no harm, no foul, but it's not going to be happy with that. you might, for your tutorial, you might want to catch that. You might want to say, oh, no. I said the W, the W key. Maybe see what keys you're pressing. Okay, I'm not doing that, but I don't give you credit either until you hit the W key. And then I did hit W. It's not done. You kind of have to do it enough. And it looks like I broke the whole damn thing. So let's see. Interesting. All right. So I guess my first job is, oh, interesting. Okay, I have no idea why it took that long. Okay, I'll show you. We'll look at the code. Apparently I left it in a bad state, so sorry about that. Okay, so then it says we have to move backwards. You're probably going to fall off the world if you move backwards long enough to make the, yeah, it's kind of timing based. This is crazy. I'm moving backwards. Sorry about that. I was trying to improve things, and I ended up breaking them. Isn't that just the way? Wow. Doesn't want to end at all. All right. Okay, so we have, and I feel really motivated to look at the code. Let's see what's going on here. Okay. I'll give you a new version once we fix it. Okay. So there's not a lot of code, but the way you set this up, Unity fashion is, it's a little code sprinkled here or there, and then some Unity objects that you have to have produced. So let's first look at the project. Let's see what's here. Okay, I've got a plane that we're walking on. I've got our FPS controller model. I've got a script. Okay, toggle FPS script here that's got a bunch of objects that it wants. Okay. I've also got my main canvas. That's this, my find title and the start button. I've got an event system, which is actually something you won't have to add in manually. I think when you put in buttons, it kind of is nice to you and just kind of give you to actually collect the fact that a button has been pressed. You need a Unity event system, so it's kind of kind to you and puts that in for you automatically, as I recall. And then I also have an instruction canvas. So the instruction canvas is the thing that gives all the tutorial information, so all those screens except for the initial splash screen, including one you didn't see, which appears at the termination, since my thing was not terminating properly. And then that canvas down inside of it, well, the title canvas has stuff inside. It has the start button and some text. The instruction canvas has a bunch of subpanels in it. There's the one that tells you to move forward with a button to acknowledge. Here's the one that tells you to move backwards. Here's the one we didn't get to see, which is tutorial complete. Okay? All right, so you've got a lot of it is just kind of building these components, but then the rest of it is putting in enough code with enough wiring logic to kind of make it work together. And there are definitely multiple ways to do this. And I'm not making any claims that mine is special in any way. You should remember this 2D button here. I think that's what they used in the tutorials where they wanted you to mess with a canvas. It's just because otherwise the canvas is a 3D object. Here I'm looking at it from behind on an angle. That's not the convenient way, so 2D is definitely the way to go there. Okay? All right. So let's start with, let's pull the thread. This is a broken app, so let's pull the thread of application from what works through what doesn't work and see if we can make it all work. Okay, we first got the canvas to be displayed. We pressed the start button, and that worked. How does the start button actually work? So let's actually take a look at it. So the way it works, when you put buttons in, you typically get a text widget that comes along with it for free because they assume you're going to want to maybe put a label on that button. So I didn't have to create that by hand, and neither will you. And then the other thing that's important with the buttons, aside from, you might want to have an image on it, you might care about its color, you might want to resize it, yada, yada, yada. You might care about how it's laid out on the screen, all that good stuff. But the piece I'm mostly concerned with here is the mechanics. So how do you actually make it do something? So if you look down at the bottom, if you create a button, you have the opportunity to add and also delete different types of things that will happen when the button is pressed. Okay? So the first thing here is it says game object set active, but I think that's actually a misnomer. I think what it's actually doing is it's toggling activity. And it has an object here, so let me make it bigger. It has an object here, which is the title canvas. Okay, so actually, I talked about, that's the kind of the backwards way of thinking about it. So actually the way it works is, when you just ask for, let's ask for a new event. Let's ask for a new one. There you go. Okay, you see there's no functionality that is allowed here. Why? Because it's waiting for you to say what object you actually want to act on. And when you tell it what the object is, then it says, oh, okay, then maybe you want to do this or that or the other thing. Okay? So that's really the more logical order. So I can get rid of this. What if you go and you drag a canvas down in here, then you get a list, and a nested list of options, which looks like this. Quite a few things. Okay? And now the set active, I think what that just does is it just toggles on and off the activity of the title canvas. Now, what do I mean by activity? Well, what I'm talking about is activity is this main checkbox. If you've messed with this checkbox before, you know if you uncheck at that level, it's like the object isn't even there in your scene. It's just dead and ignored for all purposes. Okay? So that's the way I make that screen go away when you say, yeah, I got it. Okay, I set the main screen inactive, poof, it's gone. Okay, now we ought to be able to see that if we run this part. This is one of the working parts, and you click through, and now we just pause so we can inspect what's going on. You can see that the title canvas, look, the checkbox has become unchecked. Okay, there you go. Okay, all right. Now the next thing here is the next thing that happens is that we talk to one of my scripts. So what was dragged in here is not a canvas, but my script. That's script holder script. I don't remember the name. Toggle FPS is what it's called. Okay? So what happens here is, one of the options here is you can say, so my script came up as an option, and I'm basically, this gives you some callback functions that you can choose to invoke on that script. Now, it won't do anything in and of itself. The way you'll make it do something is then by going in the script, implementing that function, and then whatever code you put in there, that's what will get run when you click it. Okay, so in this case, the function that I asked for is toggle FPS, that's the script name, on start button click. All right, so if I go in and I dive into my script, here you go, you see on start button click, that's this right here. So this is the code I'm asking to have run. Okay? And you see what it does is up above, you will see there is a variable for this object called state. So it's a little finite state machine. That's what I would ever recommend you think about using, just to keep yourself in line and organized. I've got a count there. That was new, and that's something that's kind of breaking us at the moment. So the count is, my idea with the count was, so the way this was last year, it worked perfectly, but it just wasn't very nice. So like the instant that you press the W key, you wouldn't hear any sounds, you wouldn't see that you're moving forward, it would just immediately say, oh, good job, and it would lock you up and bring you into the next screen. Well, that wasn't very satisfying. I want you to actually see, oh yeah, I see what this does, I'm moving forward. Then lock you up and say, okay, now move backwards. Okay, so that's what the count is there for, and it's just my concept was very simple, just count the number of frames and make sure the user is doing the right thing for a given number of frames. So we'll have to look into that mechanic because it's broken. All right, now I did some other stuff here. All right, so you see, this is the way I'm locking you down. When I don't want you moving, okay, I'm basically going, and again, this is basically the moral equivalent of the checkbox. I think maybe it actually literally is the checkbox. Dot enabled. I'm taking your first-person controller. Okay, let's see how it works. So what's the magic? What's FPSC? The FPSC is, so this script. Let's go take a look at the script. Actually, it doesn't appear here. Let's see. What is FPSC? Okay, it's a game object. Okay, so it's actually getting. Okay, so it's getting set here. Didn't realize there was a start implemented. Okay, so I started at the wrong place. So this is going to happen first, so let's read this first. Okay, FPSC is a game object that we give by name, our first-person controller. We say that it's disabled. That's how I make you lock down. Okay, I set the state to the wait state, and then I go to various panels and the information canvas and set it to false. Let's see. Yeah. So the information canvas is the canvas. So here's the way I'm organized. My information canvas holds all of the tutorial panels. Okay? There are two canvases though. The other one is the start canvas or splash screen canvas. Okay? So these are all the ones I don't want up when the user starts playing the game. That's why they're all set to false. Okay? Whereas a splash screen by default is born active, so it becomes visible. Okay, so that's the way it works. All right, now you remember what was up there was the start button. Again, we did trace through and see the start button is set to invoke this onStart button click method. Okay, and now we see the state is going to change to wait, move forward. We're waiting for the user to move forward. Count set to 0. Okay. Again, we're not allowing you to move because right now we're going to display the instructions. Let's say press 0 to move, press W to move forward. Okay. We have the information canvas set active, so you can actually see it. We have the panel with the relevant information also set active. Okay. All right. So we're now going to be in the wait, move forward state. Okay. Let's take a look at that panel. So this is just a lot of wiring. I don't find this particularly elegant. It's not programming. Okay, yay, I guess. But you end up doing a lot of hunting through your objects that you place in the scene. So in this case, what actually happens when you acknowledge the okay, I get it, I'm supposed to move, press W to move forward. How does that actually work? Well, you wouldn't know until you go and find, okay, here it is, the move forward panel. It's now invisible, so you have to actually, it should be visible, but the top of the canvas is invisible. So there it is. Okay? So you can see the text, there's text, and there's a button. That button is set to invoke on move forward button click on my code. Now, I think the way you actually do this, we'll see this more tomorrow, so this is why you really need to also do some, we really need to do at least a little bit of creation of this stuff interactively, because I think the correct order is, I think this gets populated. These are not standard names, I don't think. I think what happens is you write the function first, then it gets populated into this drop-down menu as an option to invoke when the button's clicked. I think that's the way it works. And I'll be sure tomorrow when we actually go and do it. Okay? So on forward, button click. All right, great. So press W to move forward. Got it button in the middle. I press the got it button. It invokes on move forward button click. Let's keep pulling the thread. Here it is. Okay? Now I allow you to move. I make the information canvas invisible. I make the move forward canvas invisible. You notice I'm getting ready to show you the next information panel, which tells you to move backwards. Now, that's not going to be immediately visible. Why? Because its parent is this canvas, which I've set inactive. Yeah, again, there's a lot of choices. If you get it wrong, you'll know the wrong stuff will be visible, okay? And you'll have to figure it out. So this is just, you'll notice, I just kind of force myself to kind of follow a regular pattern. You'll have to find your own that you like that works for you, or adopt this one. Either way is fine, as long as it works. All right. Now, what's happening now is that we're waiting for the user to move. Now, let's take a look, because this is where something is not working right. Okay, I got a count threshold. Maybe my count threshold is just too high. I'm just not sure. Yeah, I think maybe. Okay, so here's the way I hoped it would work. Here's our update function. It's going to get updated every frame. I want to look and see if the user is holding down the W key, like he should be if he's moving forward. If he does, I give you credit and increment the count. Okay? If the count is not great enough yet, we're done. If it is great enough, we continue forward, and then you see what's going to happen. We go to the move backward state, the count is reset to 0. We go back, we inactivate your movement model, we make the canvas, information canvas visible so you can see what your next instruction is, okay, and some additional magic in here. Don't actually remember why this was needed, so you can experiment and see if it's still needed. It probably really was needed when I coded this a year ago, but things change, okay? So you can try at your risk turning those things off, and if nothing is bad with your testing, it's probably okay. If you don't see the cursor though, you'll know why, right? Cursor visible equals true. That seems like a good thing, but maybe it's not needed anymore. Yeah, lock state. It's probably still needed. So what's going on? You remember when you're walking around first person in the world, we don't want a cursor visible in the window, right? When you move the mouse, it's not to move a pointer to touch something. You mean turn your head, okay? So that's sometimes called cursor lock, okay? So that's what was happening. So unless there somehow is some new code to automatically detect and bring the cursor back, because the first-person controller is disabled, you're going to want those lines. All right. So why is this not working? Okay. At a minimum, it seemed to work okay with a lower count threshold. I kind of think that the issue here is maybe that this is requiring fresh key presses. You guys know? Input, get key. I think it may need to be get key pressed. Let's see. Returns true while the user holds down. No, it should be okay. Maybe the just get key. That's what I did, right? Oh, did I have down? No, it's just to get key. All right, maybe 40 is, but 40 should be like a second worth of frames. I'm really not getting this. All right, well, let's turn it down. Let's see how it works. I could also try to use time. I could actually try to use a clock rather than counting frames. Counting frames means it's going to be different depending on the frame rate on any given computer. So that's not maybe the best way to do things. Got it. See that? It's a little fast.
I think it works fine when you actually do the tutorial correctly and press W. I think it's when you click,
something
A or
else.
D, yeah, that throws it off.
Really? Well, why would that be? That is odd. Okay, let's see if that's the case. I mean, that could be. Are we hitting some kind of weird bug here? That doesn't immediately make sense to me. It should be that way. All right, let's try again. All right, this time I will be a well-behaved tutorial user, and yeah, okay. It's like John is absolutely right. That was it's still really brief, but it's not instant, so it is somewhat better. Now let's try again by pressing a wrong key. Start, got it. Okay. Move to the left a little first. Now we'll try. Yeah, it just seems to be flaky. All right, this time I'm going to be very badly behaved and do all kinds of stuff before I move forward. Jump a couple times. All right, now I'll move forward. What's the deal? All right, guys, I don't get it. Yeah, so we got some work to do here. We got to figure out why things are flaky. Okay, let's just look. I think there's maybe a little bit more to mine out of the code. Then I'm gonna stop and let you mess around with it a bit. And again, we'll pick it up again tomorrow and just make sure we can create some things from scratch, and I get it, recorded in case people need it for later. Other stuff here. Okay. Note my comment here. I'm not actually a huge fan of this kind of a timed tutorials that are based on something being timed. Actually, if I were really trying to teach a user the specific thing that seems to be for, which is how to move around in the world, I probably would say I would use triggers, and I would say, move to the orange cone or whatever. That's probably enough. Then again, if you have a user that's so basic, move to the orange cone doesn't say to touch the W key. Maybe you have to say a little more than that. But, you can be the judge. If I thought there was no grounds for ever using time, I wouldn't bother to teach it to you. But I kind of feel there may be better ways for this specific thing, how to train the user in basic movement. Let's see what else we can get out of here. I think the rest of this is just changing. It's just constantly changing the state. It's doing the same stuff, making the windows visible and then invisible. So it's really, if you got the structure I talked about so far, you get the whole thing. Move backwards works the same way. And I don't know. And hopefully you notice that there is kind of an end screen. Once you get to that once you get through it all, you're really completely done. There's no way out of this. Your motion model's locked up. So this would be a good place to go put a user score up or any final debrief stuff you wanted the user to see on his way out the door. All right. Questions? So working for you guys, is anyone getting it, having the weirdness that I had, or is that just one unlucky run?
I did on the first go.
Yeah.
But now it's working just like it is.
And now it's fine. All right, we gotta try to understand that.
Is there a way, if we wanted to have a scene, like a training scene?
Yes.
That's kind of like how you have it now, just a plane, users walking back and forth.
Right.
When you transition to your actual game screen.
Yes.
Do you know how we could?
I'm actually looking it up right now.
Yeah. There's a scene manager load scene would be the magic call that would load in the new scene.
Okay.
Right, and that could be hitched to the back of the. Congratulations, you finished the tutorial. Acknowledge. Okay, now I load the real first scene. You can load scenes by name or by index, and you do have to make a scene load. One thing I'll tell you is you want to go to the build setting and make sure your scenes actually show up in this list, which you see mine didn't. Yeah, if you're getting weirdness, that would be the reason. Okay, and you've got to open each one individually and add it. I didn't see a faster way to do it. It's very strange. So you have to actually make the scene active and then come in here and add open scene, which makes no sense at all. There's got to be a faster way. Please, one of you will figure it out. Please let me know what the better way is. Okay, but that's what you do. See, there you go. It'll come up here.
And then second follow-up question: in our UI, we wanted to have a little mini map. So just show how the players are oriented with respect to the objective or whatever.
That would be fantastic, yeah. Was there a question attached to that? I don't have a mini map to show you. That's not a trivial thing.
How you would do that, I guess, was my underlying question.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a YouTube.
Why don't do an overhead, add another camera, do an overhead shot of your guy really far away.
You totally can do that. That was the first thing I thought of. But then again, it might not be.
I've done it already, John.
It might not be the easiest thing or the clearest thing for the user to actually see. So mostly mini maps aren't just overhead views. They're mostly, at least somewhat replaced with other graphics. So, so you can do a canvas and you can start loading shapes in there. They've put a whole bunch of. They have the ability to do really nice vector graphics in Unity. It's not an official feature of Unity yet, so it's I seem to recall you had to download something to get it to work, but it's actually pretty good. By vector graphics, I mean you can zoom into them, and they look the edges look sharp and clean no matter how much you zoom in. So that's the kind of thing you might want to have, like lines, squares, other kinds of geometric shapes that always look sharp regardless of the user's number of pixels on his screen. So there are some good ingredients there, but I've actually never made a mini map. I think that would be way cool, though. I would encourage you to think about that and teach us all how to do that. Any other questions? Okay, so we're done for today. Tomorrow we'll play around some more, and then we'll press ahead. If you'll see, I'll try to get. I hope maybe by tomorrow I'll try to put the assignment up, because I want to make it so I don't think this stuff is terribly hard. It does take a certain amount of time to get through, but it's not terribly hard, and I want you to be able to start on your project. If now is a good week for you, I want to make sure you can start. So we'll try to facilitate that.